response to something that we wrote something that said, oh, so-and-so over here wrote an interesting blog, you should go read it. And somebody else posted a comment that said something very sort of negative about the person we linked to. Oh, I don't like that person. And we looked at it and we thought, well, this is not productive. It's just kind of hateful. And so we got rid of it. It's one of the very few comments we've deleted because it just wasn't very productive at all. The corporation, the people inside the organization, should respond on occasion. They do not have to be the primary responders. They do not have to be the only responders, but they really do need to be available and show that they are listening and addressing things. So, for example, if somebody said, I really want this product enhancement, it would be lovely if a corporate person could respond and say, that is on our roadmap. Now, I understand the issues around disclosing roadmaps, and that's something you have to work out within your organization. Or we have a workaround for that. Or, yes, we know that's a bug. We have a new patch that has come out that addresses that bug. Those types of things are very, very valuable if you can do them, and especially when it's information that can only come from the corporation, information that can only be given by somebody who does have inside official information. So an interesting question coming through here, how do we keep the forums from being a means of support for the product? I'm not sure that you want to keep them from being a means of support for the product. I suppose my question would be, is that a bad thing? Why would you not want it to be a means of support for the product? And I would encourage the person who sent the question to explain why it would be a bad thing. So I suppose if you make a lot of money off of tech support, it would certainly be an issue. So that would be something to address. But my take on it would be that if you provide the forums and some people get support that way, and even if, or maybe especially if they're getting support from third parties, that might be okay. So the response is, it might be a good thing. I was curious what your take was. My take on it is that if you can provide multiple ways of providing support, one of those might be a forum, and that would be okay with me, with the possible exception of, again, highly regulated products. If you have medical devices, having your users discuss amongst themselves how to use them improperly might not be the best thing. I believe that you could work through that by, in that case, requiring registration and making it very clear that people have to have a real name associated, and when they make a recommendation, they're speaking as a doctor or whoever that person might be that works with your stuff. But in general, my take on it would be that, yes, it could certainly provide support, and that would be okay with me. Let's see, another question here about Twitter. What are your thoughts on using social media such as Twitter to respond to customers who tweet negative comments about your organization? That is a really, really, really good question, and it is trouble. It's a really, really hard problem. What I would say is that it is going to become a necessity. You may not want to do it, and you may not like it, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to be required to support it. Now, there's a difference between a tweet coming from somebody like me who says, you know, I hate United and I'll never fly them again. That is not a really productive tweet, and responding, this was pre-Twitter, of course, but responding would not have probably worked. However, if I send a tweet that said, you know, they lost my bag, they're not returning my phone calls, and they're treating me like a criminal, I was actually made to fill out an affidavit swearing that I wasn't lying about my bag being lost and about the claim as to what was in the bag, and indicating that I understood that if I was caught lying, I would go to prison. This made me a little cranky because, after all, I was not the one that had lost the bag. So if you were to see a tweet that says, I can't get any answers from the baggage people, a productive use of somebody at United's time, okay, they probably get 1,000 of these a day, but still, a productive use might be to respond and to actually help. So my thoughts on this would be it really has to do with how the comment is negative. If somebody says, I hate the interface, I can't figure it out, that goes under product enhancement. People are having trouble with our interface. So if they care enough to tweet, that's a decent sign. Now, if they're tweeting just to blow off steam and to cause trouble, that's one thing. I would also mention that you might want to take a look at the Maytag incident from Heather Armstrong, which is deuce.com. Language warning. I would suggest that you not go there unless if you are offended by strong language. So, but they had a problem with a washer. Now, this is somebody who has 1 million subscribers to her blog. Take a look at how Maytag addressed that and what some of the things are that happened. There was some stuff that happened there. So something to take a look at. All right, now, so organize, respond, do some moderation, but with a light hand. Blogs. First of all, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, you have to allow discussion. You have to allow comments. If you don't, you essentially have a dead end. You have a press release. You have a dead end blog that doesn't really help. The blog should communicate, and it should go beyond what's available in a press release. So, for example, when we put out a press release that says we are going to have 3 new webcasts coming up in the beginning of the year, and they're going to be free, yay us, that's a press release. If we put them on the blog, we're probably going to include some information about the fact that we've tried to do paid webcasts, and we've now decided to shift strategy and talk a little bit about sort of the inside story behind that. So there's a bit of a different approach there. There's a bit of a different mentality in terms of looking at that. So something to consider. You need to communicate and go beyond what's available in other communication channels. I would really encourage you, and I'll put this in the chat window, I would really encourage you to take a look at the MarkLogic CEO blog. This is Dave Kellogg, the CEO of MarkLogic. He has a wonderful blog about industry stuff. And he does a really, really great job of being an interesting CEO and having an interesting blog that is not a press release. So something to consider. So, reciprocate. I've seen a lot of blogs that are not linking to others. So they'll say things like, oh, there's an interesting discussion going on about this, that, and the other thing, but they're not linking because there's some corporate policy that says thou shalt not link to external people. You've got to link to other people, mainly because if you don't, they will stop linking to you, and of course you want those links coming in when you write something interesting. So there has to be reciprocality, I think that's a word, and you really do have to link to others, so that's something to consider. And when people come back and they give you feedback and they say, I don't agree with you, or I hate what you've done, or whatever, you need to take that seriously. I had a discussion a few months back with somebody about the webcasting that we were doing who said, even $20 is too much. And I said, really? I mean, $20, really? And they said, yes, it is too much. And we took that into account when we made the decision to give up on getting people to pay for our webcasts and go forward with free ones. So you don't have to necessarily do what the feedback tells you, but you need to pay attention to what people are saying and take into account where they are coming from. Side question here, do I recommend a blog to create a blog? Do I recommend a blog service to create a blog for a personal side business, not for a corporate entity? If you are going to create a blog for your personal side business, which I highly recommend, you need to create that blog and you need to write it because you are the person who has the business. If you have somebody else blogging for you, it will not work unless that person is in the business and involved in the business. Blogging is not about getting PR people to push out content. It doesn't work that way. It has to be your voice. And I think the same thing would be true for Twitter. Now, it is certainly possible that you have an in-house, in a large organization, you might have the in-house person who writes, so take our example. I have a Twitter account. We also have